In the middle of the 2024 school year, an unprecedented number of American teachers did something that used to be unthinkable. They packed up their desks, handed in their keys, and broke their contracts. They walked away. Not because of the pay and not to retire. They walked away because the American classroom has fundamentally changed. If you are a parent or if you simply live in this country, you probably sense that something is very wrong with the education system. You are not imagining it, and the people who know it best are the ones desperately trying to get out. I'm John Marks. If you enjoyed this kind of content, leave a like and subscribe to the channel. More videos are coming. Let us start with the reality on the ground. Over the past 3 years, more than 300,000 teachers have quit. But it is not just that they are leaving, it is how they are leaving. A decade ago, breaking a teaching contract mid-year was professional suicide. It meant losing your license and burning every bridge in your district. Today, teachers are doing it by the thousands. They are doing it in October. They are doing it in February. And they are doing it because staying has become a threat to their physical and mental health. Teachers are routinely checking themselves into urgent care for panic attacks and stress-induced heart palpitations. They describe living in a constant state of fight or flight, and the most revealing part is that they are not complaining about grading papers or creating lesson plans. They are mourning the loss of a profession they loved. Teaching is no longer about academics. It has become a daily exercise in crowd control and crisis management. A typical teacher might get 20 minutes of actual academic instruction into a 1-hour class. The other 40 minutes are spent redirecting aggressive behavior, managing students who cannot sit still, and dealing with constant administrative interruptions. The environment is so chaotic that basic learning has become a secondary priority. And yet, the official narrative from school districts is that everything is fine. They point out that graduation rates are stable, but the people standing at the front of the room know exactly how those graduation rates are being achieved. And the truth is incredibly uncomfortable. This is where the numbers stop being abstract. We are looking at an entire generation of students who simply cannot read. And I do not mean they are struggling with complex literature. I mean 8th graders who cannot decode a simple sentence. There are classrooms where out of 100 students, only 2 are reading at grade level. The rest are scattered between a kindergarten and a 4th grade reading level. They cannot apply inference, they cannot connect cause and effect. If you ask them to read a 3-paragraph historical text, they will openly refuse, claiming it is too much work. And this lack of basic comprehension bleeds into everyday life. We have 10-year-old children who do not know how to read an analog clock. They do not know their own address. They do not know their parents' phone numbers. They cannot tie their own shoes. This is not happening in one specific demographic or one specific state. It is happening everywhere. The reliance on tablets and constant screen stimulation has fundamentally rewired how these children process information. They have lost the ability to be bored, they have lost the capacity to sit with a difficult problem and figure it out. If a search engine or an artificial intelligence program does not give them the answer in 3 seconds, they simply give up. The concept of sticking with a challenging task has vanished, and when you put 30 of these highly distracted, easily frustrated children into a single room, the expectation that a single adult can somehow force them to focus is completely detached from reality. But then an obvious question comes up. If behavior is this bad, why isn't anyone enforcing the rules? The answer is the most uncomfortable part of this entire story. The rules have been quietly dismantled. Over the past decade, school administrations began treating student discipline as a customer service issue. Principals are pressured by districts to keep suspension rates as low as possible. Because a low suspension rate looks excellent on a district report card. It suggests the school is a peaceful, well-managed environment. On paper, it looks like a massive success. In practice, it means there are no consequences. A student can curse at a teacher, throw a computer across the room, or physically assault a classmate. They are sent to the office, and 10 minutes later, they are walking right back into the classroom. Sometimes they even come back with a piece of candy. The teacher is stripped of all authority. They are put in a professional straitjacket. They are told to build better relationships. They are told to give the student more grace. And if a teacher attempts to call home, they often find that the parents are just as combative. 20 years ago, a phone call from the school meant the child was in trouble. Today, a phone call from the school means the teacher is going to be interrogated. Parents immediately demand to know what the teacher did to provoke their child. They demand camera footage. They refuse to hold their children accountable for basic disrespect. The adults have completely surrendered their authority, and the children know it. And here is what most people aren't talking about. To manage this massive decline in student capability, the education system decided to simply lower the bar. Districts began purchasing what are called scripted curricula. Instead of trusting a teacher to design a lesson based on what their specific students need, the teacher is handed a script. They are expected to read it word for word. The theory is that any administrator can walk into any classroom on any given Tuesday and hear the exact same lesson. But think about what that actually means. If you have a 4th grade classroom where half the students read at a 1st grade level, the teacher is not allowed to change the material to help them. They are forced to push ahead with the 4th grade script. The students sit there completely lost, frustrated, and unable to do the work. And because they are frustrated, they act out. And when they act out, the teacher is blamed for poor classroom management. To keep the machine moving, grading standards have been artificially inflated. Teachers are often forbidden from giving a student a 0, even if the student turns in nothing. Minimum grades of 50% are mandated just for showing up. Students are allowed to retake tests an unlimited number of times. Deadlines have been completely abolished in the name of equity. We are teaching children that failure is impossible and that effort is entirely optional. We are prioritizing the final product over the process of learning, and the students are absorbing this lesson perfectly. Now, it is very easy to blame the events of 2020 for all of this, and it is true that the pandemic accelerated the collapse, but it did not start it. The pandemic simply acted as a massive stress test on a system that was already rotting from the inside. When schools shut down and learning moved on to screens, whatever fragile attention spans these children had left were completely shattered. They realized very quickly that the screen could be minimized, the camera could be turned off, the work could be easily faked or ignored entirely. And when they finally returned to the physical classroom, that expectation of total passivity returned with them. Life has not been the same since 2020. Anyone looking at an American classroom knows this. But the real divide happening right now is not political. It is entirely cultural. There is a quiet splitting of society taking place. On one side, you have parents who realize that the school system is failing. They know their children are not being challenged, so they take it upon themselves to supplement that education at home. They restrict screen time, they force their children to read physical books, they teach them how to handle failure and frustration. On the other side, you have parents who treat the public school as a free daycare service. They assume that simply dropping their child off at 8 in the morning fulfills their obligation, and the gap between these two groups of children is becoming insurmountable. Let me show you what this actually means. It means that we are actively manufacturing a generation of adults who lack emotional resilience, critical thinking, and basic literacy. This is not an abstraction. These children will soon enter the workforce. They will be making decisions, they will be driving on your roads, they will be voting. The teachers who saw this coming are already leaving, and many are pulling their own children out of the system on their way out the door. In the end, a society that refuses to hold its children accountable will inevitably be held hostage by them. Someone always absorbs that cost. And if you live in America today, you already know exactly who it is. Thanks for watching. Support links are in the description and on screen.